Hi there, my name is Atticus. I'm a medical student living in London, and this will be the first video in a series that will follow me making a web-based flashcard app. If this sounds like it might be interesting to you, then stick around for the rest of the video. So I started university in 2016, and I've always been on the search for the perfect way to learn and take notes. So I think the first thing I did was write bullet points and essentially transcribe the lecture that was being given to me, which when you come back to look at it makes virtually no sense and doesn't help you learn the content. So I soon stopped that. I got an iPad and I started writing questions just in bullet points in Notability, just typing them out. And then below the bullet point, I'd write the answer. And this was really good because it meant that I could just print these off, cover up the answer, ask myself the question and think, and I'd have it all on one page. And the thing that I really liked about this method and why it's still one of my most favourite methods is that you can see all of the questions, you can see everything in a topic on one page. So it's really good for getting that kind of overview of the subject. But after using this for a while, I realised I kind of wanted a more structured, digitised form. So I went on to Anki. Anki let me make flashcards in a systematic way, and it also let me test myself efficiently. So it kept track of what I wasn't doing that well on, and it works really well. So I used Anki just kind of normal flashcards for a while, front and back. But what I've noticed is that I'd just make so many flashcards that I'd never have enough time to test myself on them. And even when I did come around to test myself on them, there was the problem that I'd ask myself a question and the answer was like ridiculously long, impossible for me to memorize or recite. So I knew that there needed to be a better way of learning these, because I just got to the point where I was just clicking through just to see what the answer was, and it wasn't working for spaced repetition or active recall. So the solution I found was in Anki, and I think it's, even though there's quite a lot of people who use Anki now, initially there weren't that many that knew about the Cloze Deletion feature, and I remember thinking I'd heard about it and I wasn't that sure on it because I just didn't understand what it was. But it's very simple. So Cloze Deletions are literally just fill in the blanks, and it kind of reminds me, it takes me back to the early school days when you have those fill in the blanks worksheets with the kind of possible answers at the bottom and you have to cross them off as you go along. So overall I thought that was a really good method, but the problem was that it still didn't give me any kind of context on the subject. You learn these discrete facts, but the connections in your mind of linking them all together to make a cohesive kind of understanding of the subject is slightly lost. And additionally, you can't ever see all of your flashcards on one page and just go through them, read through them if you wanted to. So I decided to create my own high-yield focused flashcard learning platform. I'm calling it FlashNotez. So the first step in making anything is to do something a bit fun, in my opinion. So that always, for me, is making the logo. So I started off by starting with this kind of black background and this logo, but I didn't like that and quickly moved on to something a bit brighter. So you can see here I was just testing around with a few different colour combinations. Darker blue, yellow background. I didn't really like any of these and I decided to go back to the kind of lighter blue background. I liked the idea of having the kind of Z in the middle, like in yellow, for a bit of flare, but wasn't sure on the shape initially. So you can see I tried a few different shapes for the Z and ended up liking the kind of more rounded look to it, but it still wasn't quite right. And I realised that what I needed to do was turn it into a flash, which is what I did, and I think it looks a lot better. So I'm really happy with the logo at the moment. So now that I had the logo designed, I wanted to start coding. And just to quickly mention, the coding framework that I'm using is called React. It functions on JavaScript and it essentially produces a nice modular user interface that's easy to design and keep up to date with reactive applications, web applications like FlashNotez is going to be. If you're interested in how the coding side of things is working, then definitely stay tuned because I'm planning on doing a few explorations of problems that I've come across and the solutions that I found to solve them. So it should be quite interesting for anyone that's quite technical minded and likes problem solving. And if you're interested in learning to code too, then I might do a video in the future explaining how I got started coding and how it's very easy for you to start too. This is what I've got so far. And I think it looks really cool. You've essentially got this quick capture page, and the first thing you're greeted with is just paste some text to start making a flashcard. So there we go. There's one thing that I pasted, and you can see it kind of comes up. And I'm going to have these kind of buttons with highlighter colors because I want to be able to have more than one kind of close deletion. So I'm going to need different colors. And you can see you can just carry on pasting, and it will paste more and more bits of text. Okay, so I've got a bit further, and now essentially I've made it so that you can click and drag and highlight text, and it works very nicely. And after you've kind of taken your finger off the trackpad or taken your finger off the mouse, at the end of highlighting a sentence or a phrase, it consolidates and all of the kind of highlighted pieces merge together to form a nice group. So I think it looks really nice. I've also added this kind of hover effect. Whenever you hover over any text, it gets a bit larger and it highlights it, so you kind of have a preview of what you're going to be highlighting, and I think it looks really nice so far. And if we actually delve into a bit of the code, you can see here every single word or every single kind of fragment is split up into its individual kind of object, and then that has some kind of metadata attached to it. So for each group of every kind of word you can see on the page, it's got some properties associated with it. So what group it's part of, whether it's selected, and what the actual text is. And then React, the framework that I'm using to make this application, takes that information in and then it displays it to the user. Okay, so I've got quite a bit further now. So you can see I've got Anki over here on the right and I've got FlashNotez over on the left. And what I wanted to do is make it so you could just literally copy and paste a Cloze deleted flashcard from Anki into FlashNotez, and it would read all of the properties and you'd be able to have it. So you can see how amazing this is. Really exciting. You paste it across and you've got everything formatted exactly how you want it. And you can see I've also added the ability to be able to edit the text, which is really useful as well. There's a few problems I've still yet to solve, such as the kind of hints that you can do in Anki. I need to implement that. But overall, I think it looks really cool. Like if you compare how it looks on FlashNotez on the left to how it looks to Anki on the right, you can see a massive difference. I've got a bit further now. You can see you can still copy and paste in and it formats it beautifully with the colors. And you can see there's going to be kind of these set colors. So number 1 will always be yellow, number 2 will always be pink, and so on. And it goes all the way up to 16, I think, and then it stops. I need to figure out what I'm going to do if someone has 17 cloze deletions, but that's something for another video. You can see now I've added this nice kind of add flash note button, which I think was needed because you're not always going to be pasting text. Sometimes you just want to start typing. So you can see you can now just create a flashcard from scratch without pasting anything in, type it out and save. And once you've saved, you can then use your highlighter to highlight the parts that you want to be cloze deleted, just like that. So I think this is really cool. It's really easy to use. I've played around with the homepage a bit and I've added this nice kind of flashing logo when you go over it, which I don't know, I might remove, but I kind of quite like it. It's a little kind of Easter egg to find. But when you go back to the homepage, you can see that I've made the icons kind of this white background, which I think stands out a bit more. And I've added a little kind of flair to the icons, so they kind of twizzle whenever you hover, which I think is nice. I don't know, I feel like maybe I've gone a bit over the top with all the animations and hover effects, so I'll probably dampen them down in the future a bit. I've also added this kind of nice changes saved, even though nothing's been saved yet, but this is how I kind of want it to look, so that you know you don't have to kind of look for a save button, like everything's up to date and saved as you do it. I think it's all come together, it's all looking quite nice. So if you've got to the end of the video, thank you very much for watching. Hopefully next week I'll be releasing another video which will cover all of the additional features that I've been working on, including the login system, which has been quite difficult to do. So definitely stay tuned for next week.